there's this temptation to collectivize it all, right? And to blame and then, put it on all the politicians and all the media and anyone who supports them and so on. I'm speculating, but that's perhaps the type of thinking that even led to what took place to begin with. You see what I mean? So it just keeps getting amped up and amped up and amped up, and it's just...
Evil will always exist.
Yes. There's obviously something that needs to change, and people have a right to be angry, but be angry at the right thing. Be angry at the right people.
And then this is how we get manipulated.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of different things that are going on. Obviously now we live in this world of social media and smartphones, and people forget with smartphones it also means that everyone is also walking around with cameras and video cameras at all the time. So the amount of crime that you see has increased. Right? It doesn't mean the amount of crime's increased.
Like a ridiculous amount.
Yes, exactly. Another danger I think is further polarization and division.
For sure.
Balkanization, because again, people have that tribal mentality, and depending on what the narrative is, you could start to feel some type of animosity or even hatred towards not the people necessarily who are doing the bad thing, but just like anyone who sort of looks like that or anyone who sort of shares that worldview or so on. The police are just driving around just murking black people, right? We all know that that's not what the data bears out, but you can go online and you can find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos of real world incidents of these things happening. If you're someone who's worried about black on black crime or black on white crime or whatever direction, you can go online and you can find video after video after video. And by the way, once you've watched a few, the algorithm's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to give you more of these. So I can see why people think that way.
Zuby, welcome back to the show,
here,
man.
Thank you so much. Great to see you guys again.
How you doing, Daddy?
Yeah, you're a new father.
It's awesome, man.
Isn't it?
I was already a very happy man.
Yeah.
And I've just opened this new chapter a few months ago. Married man, husband, father. And I've got a little son now, a little mini me out there in the world. And he's wonderful. He's great. My wife is great. And I feel very blessed, man. I feel very...
I'm always interested where, at what point did it hit you that you were a different man?
Wow. In which aspect? The fatherhood aspect?
Yeah.
As soon as I knew she was pregnant.
Okay, so
as soon as I knew she was pregnant, I was like, yeah, I have a child. I didn't know what he or she looked like, but I was like, yeah, I quietly knew I have a child that's in the world. I just haven't seen them yet.
Did you find that you started to change in ways? Was there things about you that maybe you didn't think would happen, or you noticed oh wow, I'm different with stuff like this now? You noticed stuff like that?
Yeah, I think there was just an immediate reprioritization. Immediately became less selfish and more selfless. So I went from just thinking of me and what I need to do to thinking what is best for this upcoming family.
Yes.
So all of the decision making now runs through that filter. Whereas last time you guys saw me, which wasn't even all that long ago, I wasn't even living anywhere at the time. I think I was just totally nomadic and, not in a negative way. I was more selfish just because I could be. And it was just all right, as long as I'm good and I can just go and be and do what I want. I don't need to think of too many other people's considerations. That's now changed, and I'm aware that it's changed permanently. And so that's great. A lot of people say that you're never ready to be a dad. You're never ready to become a parent. I didn't feel that, actually. I kind of felt very ready.
Me too.
And I think also I'm very glad that I got to be an uncle times 10 before becoming a father. So I think it made the transition less of an extreme jump. I know with some of my friends and acquaintances, when they became a dad, they'd almost never even held a baby before. And suddenly it's just what the heck am I doing? Whereas in my case, I've been an uncle for 19 years. So, and 5 nieces, 5 nephews. So I've seen them go through these different stages. My oldest niece now is 19. My youngest nephew is 2. So I've seen all of my 4 older siblings go through this process. So I don't think I walked into it as blindly as some other people do.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't be 100% prepared, and things are always going to be different, and there's things you got to adjust and adapt to, and that's going to keep changing. But I know that that's the case because I know so many people who have been through that and who are going through that. So I'm not expecting, even in the first 4 months, things have already changed, from newborn stage to a few months old. So I know that's going to just keep happening.
Now, when did you get married? Was it shortly after that you guys had the baby?
Yeah. We had a miracle where the baby was born just 2 weeks after we got married.
Wow.
God works in mysterious ways.
Okay.
I've never said that publicly. I'm an honest man. But that wasn't like we were going to get. It was an acceleration.
Yeah.
Okay. We were already on that course, and then it was like, okay.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Like,
And now you live here in the States?
I live in Dubai.
Oh, you live in Dubai?
Yeah, I live in the UAE.
What's that like? I've seen some of your posts about the safety and kind of like the just how different it is over there versus the States. Explain that.
Sure. I think Dubai is one of the best cities in the world. You guys might know I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I grew up in the Middle East. So I spent 20 years already living in the Middle East, and I moved back there about 2 years ago now. So Dubai is, it's one of the cleanest, safest, most futuristic cities in the world. A lot of people compare it to Singapore. It's hard to explain. It's easier to kind of answer specific questions because lots of things are just very different. So people know different things. A lot of people, know the sort of glamorous aspect of it. Some people know that, there's no taxes. Some people know that it's, think it's just this millionaire playground. Some people compare it to this or that. There are other people who think it's like, oh gosh, it's in the Middle East, so it must be like, dangerous and horrible for women and blah, blah, blah. And you have no rights, and it's nonsense. Can't think of a safer city for women. But Dubai is a great place. It's not for everyone. It's extraordinarily hot, particularly right now, like in the summer. If you're going to visit, I always recommend people October to March, unless you really, really like the heat. But it's a fascinating and phenomenal city in many ways. If you think just a few decades ago, it was mostly just a desert and there wasn't really anything there. And then you see the scale of the infrastructure now.
That's crazy.
And just how far along it is. It's unique in many ways. I mean, 90% of the population is foreign. So only 10% of the population is nationals. Yeah. 90%. In the UAE as a whole, only 15% of the entire country's population is actually Emirati.
Wow.
So 85% expats.
I did not know that.
Where are most of the expats from?
I think numbers-wise, the biggest majority would be India. Maybe followed by like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Philippines. But you have people from all over the globe. Lots of Russians, lots of Brits, people from every single continent, every single country. And what's interesting with Dubai is it's one of those places, no one ends up there by accident. So everyone who lives there has moved there in the way that I moved there, in the way that like my family is there. So apart from the small national population, everyone has moved there intentionally for specific reasons. So there's that changes things quite a lot, actually. Because if you think most people are in places just because they happen to be born there. Whereas there's
intention.
Yeah, there's intention. So you have a sort of naturally filtered population in some sense. And that's actually a lot of people think that there's virtually no crime just because of the harsh punishments. But actually, that's not the first and foremost thing. The first and foremost thing is this natural filter with how they actually do immigration and how they bring people in. So everyone is gainfully employed. Everyone is either, has a job or is an entrepreneur or is an investor. So there aren't just large swathes of people hanging around doing nothing. And even if there were, there's no motivation for that. Well, your visa is tied to your employment. So you can't be there doing nothing, but also there's no taxes, therefore there's no welfare system. So there's no like, if you look at the US or Canada or Europe or something, there are systems that people can take advantage of. Right. So someone can be like, hey, if I can just get into the UK or get into the States, I can kind of leech off of this system. That doesn't exist over there. Right. So if you're not working, you're not eating, you're not accommodating yourself. There's nothing for you. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there are all of these natural filters, but I think it's a great place. Super family friendly. Probably one of the most family friendly cities in the world. There's babies and children, toddlers freaking everywhere. Everyone's happy. Everyone's peaceful. It's like a little utopia. There's no politics. There's no culture war. There's no all of that stuff that occupies so much of people's brains. It's just not there. It's like this dark cloud lifts off of you.
You mentioned harsh laws. The only time I hear about the harsh laws are like drug possession laws. Like so-and-so got caught with, marijuana and they went to jail for 20 or 30 years. Yeah, are there harsh laws in other ways as well? Like for like violence or something like that? Where does that perception come from?
There just isn't this whole like let me just call it what it is, this sort of like liberal, progressive, soft on crime mentality of like, oh, you know, we should just like, we need to be like very tolerant and kind to and compassionate towards people who steal, people who rape, people who rob, people who assault others. No. Across the whole region, all the GCC, so, you know, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, Oman, like Kuwait, they don't play that. You murder someone, like you're gone.
There's no 3 strikes.
No,
or anything like
no,
that.
1 strike. Like, but because of that, it never comes to it.
I was
Like,
gonna
there's
say,
no, the murder rate's like 0,
Yeah.
right? So, and if you're not planning on like killing anyone, why are you worried about, you know what I mean? Like you don't need to worry about that because like, unless you're, you know, unless you are planning to go there and like move bricks of cocaine, you don't need to worry about yes, drug traffickers get the death penalty. But if you're going to Saudi Arabia or the UAE to sell drugs, like, okay, like, it's hard to think of something more stupid than that, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
people know the rules. You land in the airport, it tells you, right? So, so there are harsh penalties for certain crimes, but if you are like a normal law-abiding person, you don't need to worry about any of that. In the same way, you probably don't walk around here constantly like worrying about like being put in prison for this. It's like,
Right.
you know, like what are you doing? You're not like running around hurting people. So yeah, they don't tolerate that, and I don't think they should. Like I'm pretty hardcore on like I'm by Western standards. Certainly when I'm in the UK, in the US, you guys actually have the death penalty. It's abolished all across Europe, right? So in the UK, like certain things will happen, and I'm like, people like this used to be hanged, right?
Yeah.
In UK used to have like some pretty crazy punishments for people.
Yeah.
And then they kind of abolished it all, and now you got people running around stabbing each other, running around shooting, and I'm like, why is this being tolerated? You're letting a tiny, tiny fraction of the population tyrannize everyone else, whereas you could just put them in prison forever, or, you know, get rid of certain people, and you won't have to deal with that. And, you know, the USA is going through that now as well. You know, by the time someone murders someone, usually they've been like arrested and
20 times.
literally 20 times and been let out again and again and again. And it's just like, why? We shouldn't live this way.
What was the name? Because one of the things I appreciate about you is your commentary on social media seems measured.
Thank you.
It's always measured. You don't seem to get into these extreme and I love how you will counter some of the extreme stuff and kind of bring it back to like, you guys, let's all relax. Like, here's what's happening. What was the woman's name? The Ukrainian woman that got stabbed on the
Irina Zarutska, something like that.
Yes. So that was a more recent one, and the guy had been let out 14 times.
Oh, I thought it was 20. That's why I said 20.
His own mother,
was
like, he's not safe. Like, he needs to be put either in an asylum or some type of separation from society.
Yes. Today's program giveaway is the RGB bundle. If you want to win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comments section. Also, ladies, we have a group coaching group now here at Mind Pump. It's the Muscle Mommy Movement. If you like to build muscle, sculpt your body, shape your body, get lean, go sign up. These are Mind Pump trainers that will be coaching you in this incredible group. It's musclemommymovement.com. Go check it out.
All right, real quick, if you love us like we love you, why not show it by rocking one of our shirts, hats, mugs, or training gear over at mypumpstore.com. I'm talking right now. Hit pause, head on over to mypumpstore.com. That's it. Enjoy the rest of the show.
What's wild about stuff like this, you know, you go all the way back to George Floyd and then this, and is that people turn it into something it's not.
A race thing.
It's a race thing.
Yeah.
It's become a race thing.
Yeah.
I saw Matt Walsh did this really angry, Black Americans are this much more likely to da-da-da. And what they're doing is they're conflating data. It's like, look at people who are raised in single parent households.
Sure.
That's your correlate or whatever, if you want to use that kind of a correlate. But we're ignoring the fact that this was a person that was violent 14 times, essentially, and we let him out. And I love how you counter some of that stuff. What do you see as the danger of how people can take these things and run with them?
I think collectivism in general is dangerous. I think collective guilt is an extremely dangerous concept. I think that, and collective punishment, which leads from that, is an extremely dangerous concept. So just like in the past 10 years with all the woke crap, sane people have been battling this idea that like all white people are racist, or all white people are, all white Americans are somehow responsible for slavery and Jim Crow or whatever, and everyone has blood on their hands, and everyone, like all of these narratives which came from the progressive left of, the whole white people bad narrative. People rightfully got sick and tired of that. And I think now there's this sort of swing that has happened, and there's a danger always of this overcorrection. We overcorrected to the left for, I don't know how many years, maybe 2 decades, maybe 3 decades. And now there's a risk of, as the pendulum comes back towards the middle, there's the risk of those same tactics and that same type of thinking just swinging back the other way. And that's happened before throughout history, right? Where it's collective guilt, it's collective blame, it's collective punishment. It's like, oh, well, there are bad people in every single demographic, however you want to cut it, ethnically, nationally, racially, religiously, non-religiously, politically. Like there are bad people out there, and there's people who do bad things. But I have the same. So I'm as responsible for that stabbing that happened in Charlotte as you are.
Right.
Like like what connection do I have to? Oh, I'm also of African descent, so now I'm somehow for someone to, like that's a crazy way for someone to think that. Oh well, I'm not even a Black American, but even if I were a Black, like no person except the guy who did that is culpable, is responsible. If there are people around the community that have failed him, or people who are supporting or celebrating that kind of activity, then that's also a problem. But people there's always a temptation for collective guilt, I think, in humanity. It's not something new. Human beings are tribal and always have been. And there are good parts to that. That's why we feel so bonded to our families. And it's why people feel like patriotic about their nation, or, their sports team or their company, whatever it is, right? There are good ways to be tribal. But we've seen so many times all throughout history, and even right now, how it can go really haywire, and how it can be very dangerous, and how it can be discriminatory and genocidal at its most extreme.
Right.
So whenever I see people starting to lean in that direction where they're moving away from individualism and thinking, okay, like this is a problem and this needs to be dealt with in a proper way, and there should be justice, to just like, oh, all X people, all Y people have this problem or are somehow responsible. That's where I always kind of ring the little warning bell.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this nation or any other to kind of fall back into
Do you think
that way of
it's
thinking.
orchestrated?
It is sometimes. It is sometimes, but it's also on an individual level. It's a temptation. It's a temptation because people do recognize patterns, and you can talk about something honestly without getting stupid about it.
Right.
Okay. So I don't take any offense, or like if someone is like, oh, statistically in the USA, the Black population has a higher rate of, crime.
Right.
Than the white population or the Asian population. That is just statistically and objectively true. And people might have, there are different reasons why that may be the case. But even when, like, a lot of conservatives, like the whole, 13% of the population commits 50% of the, which is sort of lying with statistics to me.
100%.
Right? Because the truth is it's probably more like 2% of 13% of the population is committing 50% of the crimes.
That's right.
So the vast majority of Black Americans are not criminal.
Yep.
And are not murdering anyone, robbing anyone, raping anyone, right? So if you just say 13% of the population is doing 50% of the crime, it makes it sound like literally like every Black American is out there committing crimes. And I'm just like, that's not true, first of all. It's not fair. And a lot of people just are not, the truth is a lot of people just are not very sophisticated thinkers. Mm-hmm. And so they can be led to believe things that are not true quite easily. And I just think if you have a big platform and you're an honest actor, you should always be cautious with that. And you should also just, I just think I'm all about speaking the truth. Like I'm all about being honest and honest conversations and hard conversations. I'm happy to do that all day. I don't get emotional about it. But I think you also should think about, okay, what's the goal? What's the intention? So say even if someone does just want to talk about like, all right, let's just go deep on crime stats and talk about crime stats and talk about demographics and what it's like, okay, what's the goal here? Is the goal to assign some type of collective guilt to a whole bunch of people, including, most of whom are innocent? Or is the goal to address the underlying issues and see, okay, what's actually going on here where there's little pockets of places and people where there's just, extremely high crime, and what can be done about it? Is the goal to change the laws? Because obviously if someone has been arrested 14 times and been through the system 14 times and keeps getting let out, like, to me, that doesn't sound to me like a law enforcement failure. That's
super obvious.
That's a judicial failure.
Totally.
So whoever, I don't know how the system works in, cities and states here, but I know I live in a place where you can't you can't commit 14 crimes. They keep letting you back out there. No, after the first one, you'll be in prison and you'll be deported. And so there's obviously something that needs to change. And people have a right to be angry, but be angry at the right thing. Be angry at the right people. If you're just sort of lashing out randomly at your fellow citizens who have no more culpability than you do. Then
I feel like it's impossible to live in such a huge melting pot country that is so free and is so loose on the laws, and think that will completely eradicate evil and bad. I don't care how we talk about it or how much evil will always exist.
Yes.
And you can always find a murder, an attack, a robbery, something that fits the narrative that you. That's why I asked if you thought it was orchestrated, because it's like every day people are getting killed, hurt, and
I will tell you something that happens, and this is sad to say, but it's just true. But people care about the crimes and the situations which somehow fit their narrative or agenda or pre-existing biases, because we all know, look, I don't know the stats in this country, but certainly around the world, you probably thousands of people get killed every day. I'd imagine in the US alone, it's got to at least be dozens, probably. And so you can't care about them all. You can't even know about them all. Like, unless you're going to spend your whole life just, every single day you're just looking at homicides. And so people naturally latch onto the things that emotionally hit them. A huge factor is there a photo or a video? The video itself, which now is more like if something's on video, then it hits people emotionally in a different way. And then if there's some type of relatability to it, either it happened in your city, or the victim was someone who looks like you or could be like your friend or your daughter or your, right? Like, the more relatable it is, the more it impacts people. If we read a story and it says that, I don't know, a bomb went off in Baghdad and killed 80 people, that doesn't hit the same way as if a bomb went off in San Jose and killed 80 people. Not because those 80 people's lives are worth different amounts, but it's just, whoa, that's close to home. Like, do I know someone involved? Like, is everyone I know okay? All that type of thing. So that's just part of the human psyche. I
think what you're pointing to is the human psyche. And when we say when people speculate on the orchestration, here's where I think it gets orchestrated. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this.
Sure.
I'm not talking about like puppet masters pulling the strings, making things happen. What seems very clear to me is what gets orchestrated is things happen. And then either political parties or media will grab something and run with it and create a distorted perception of things.
Benefit off it somehow.
For example, if you were to ask conservatives, has crime gotten worse in America over the last 20 years or 15 years?
They'll say yes, even though
they'd
it's
say
gone
yes,
way down.
even though the crime stats show that's not true. In fact, I had this discussion with my cousins today, and they were debating an argument. I'm like, find the stats, FBI stats. Here's stats from here. It shows crime. In fact, I listed the cities. I said, what cities do you think are the most dangerous in America per capita for homicides? Oh, it's got to be Chicago. It's got to be San Francisco. Memphis, Tennessee is like number 4. So very, and I'm like,
probably Memphis, St. Louis,
yes,
like Baltimore.
You're right. Like those are places. And I'm like, our perception is what's getting manipulated. If you were asked liberals, Has racism gotten worse over the last 20 years or 30 years? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Not true. Yeah. It's not true at all. But our perception has, sexism gotten worse? Oh, yeah, it definitely has. No, it hasn't. It actually hasn't. And this, you can measure this in many, many different ways. One of the ways is you measure interracial marriages and relationships continues to grow. What's a great indicator of how race relations are in this country. So this is where I start to think or see, oh man, this is orchestrated. And so what it looked to me like is public perception or opinion is moving towards the left. They're going to hammer on that until they feel things start to move to the right. Now let's hammer in that direction. That's what it seems like now. Yeah, is that they're now pushing in these other directions, and things happen, and sometimes extreme things happen that can kind of fit that narrative. But they're going to run with it, and then this is how we get manipulated every single time.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of different things that are going on, and some of them are relatively new to the past 20 years or so. Obviously, now we live in this world of social media and smartphones, and people forget with smartphones, it also means that everyone is also walking around with cameras and video cameras at all the time. So the amount of crime that you see has increased.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean the amount of crimes increased,
like a ridiculous amount.
Yes, exactly. So now you're very likely to see photos. You're going to see videos. Gosh, man. Obviously, I know we were certainly going to talk about, we saw Charlie Kirk. I saw
horrible.
Yeah. We literally saw him get murdered.
Horrible.
Like I saw it. Like I didn't just hear about it. I saw it. This woman on the train, Irina, you met. Like you saw it. It wasn't just you heard the story, which is bad enough. It's like no, you. It's
like you were there.
Even if you didn't want to see the video, you probably saw
that's
it.
Right.
Right. I didn't seek out the video.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling and and that affects people's brains. If you think prior to like our generation and maybe the one above us, if you ever saw someone get killed or you saw a violent incident or you saw like something crazy, it meant for all of our ancestors, it meant they actually saw it. It meant they were there. Think about this. Yeah. For thousands and thousands of years of human history.
Think about how rare that is. You could go your whole life and probably never see that.
Exactly.
Most people would go their whole life.
But if you did, you were in danger.
Yeah, but like our brains haven't sort of, magically evolved in the last 20 years. So like the reason why people have this perception, it's not, media manipulation is part of it, both what they cover and what they don't and how they spin it. But it's also just like what people are seeing. And I don't think our brains are that well, are designed to sort of separate oh, well, this is just something I'm seeing on a screen versus this is something I'm like really seeing. And it's global. It's like you guys have probably seen, horrible stuff happening in the UK or bad stuff happening across Europe. Like, why are we seeing so much of it? And then you're not just seeing it, you're getting all the commentary and this and that. So I can totally understand why people feel like cities in particular and their whole nation are getting more dangerous. I can understand why there are people who think that the police are just driving around, just murking black people, right? We all know that that's not what's happening. That's not what the data bears out. But you can go online and you can find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos of real world incidents of these things happening. If you're someone who's worried about, black on black crime or black on white crime or whatever direction, you can go online and you can find video after video after video. And by the way, once you've watched a few, the algorithm's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to give you more of these. So I can see why people think that way. And sadly, normal doesn't go viral, right? Normal doesn't go viral. If it's in the news or if it's going viral on social media, by definition, it's an anomaly. And in a country of 350 million people, a lot of stuff happens every single day, but you're not getting fed. You're not getting fed anything positive.
So all true. We're not designed or evolved to see this kind of stuff so often.
No.
What are the warnings? What are the downstream effects of this exposure that we need to be careful for, since we are seeing this stuff? This episode is brought to you by Legion Supplements. Go to buylegion.com/mindpump. New customers, buy one, get one 50% off. Back to the show.
That's a fantastic question. I think the first one is just your own personal mental well-being and your emotional well-being, because it's very easy to get black-pilled. It's very easy to just be in a state of constant anger and outrage or sadness or frustration because you just keep seeing all this stuff, and like you're meant to feel that, right? You're not meant to watch these videos and not feel anything. Like, of course you feel bad about it. But there's a level where it's not helpful. You know, there's a balance between being informed and just being inundated with like horrible stuff that's going on, whether it's in your country or abroad. All of this bad stuff that's happening to the point that you become very fearful and incapacitated, or you're just so distracted that you can't take care of yourself and your family. You can't go about your daily business because you're just feeling upset all the time. So I think that's one danger.
Which has its own downstream effects.
Yes.
If you're scared or angry, think of all the ways that can impact your decisions and actions just throughout your day, even just with your family or with people around you.
Yeah. Another danger, I think, is further polarization and division.
For sure.
Balkanization, because again, people have that tribal mentality. And depending on what the narrative is, you could start to feel some type of animosity or even hatred towards not the people necessarily who are doing the bad thing, but just like anyone who sort of looks like that or anyone who sort of shares that worldview or so on. So, okay, you know, this R.I.P. Charlie Kirk, I want to say that, man. Like freaking, as we record this, he got killed yesterday, and that was awful. Horrible, truly horrible. I feel so bad for, gosh, his family, man. And, you know, right now, there's that temptation to blame what happened on the left.
Right.
I don't even really know what the left mean. Like, I don't know how many people that includes, right? But just like however someone interprets that, it's probably millions and millions of people. Okay. I don't know if that's like anyone who voted Democrat. I don't know if that's like people who are more on like the extreme end or whatever it is. But like, as far as I know, one person killed him. I don't know. We don't know the backstory. We don't know all of this other stuff, right? But there's this temptation to collectivize it all, right? And to blame, like, and then, you know, put it on all the politicians and all the media and anyone who supports them and so on. But that's the type of thing that probably, perhaps, I don't know yet, I'm speculating, but that's perhaps the type of thinking that even led to what took place to begin with. You see what I mean? So like, it just keeps getting amped up and amped up and amped up. And it's just, it's balkanization. And ultimately, look, this country is called the United States of America. The first word is united. And people are going to have their differences. This is one of the most diverse countries in the world. It's massive geographically. You've got 50 different states, thousands of different cities, people from all over, different belief systems. There's always going to be clashes. There are going to be differences. There are going to be disagreements. But at a bare minimum, for the nation to hold together, people at least need to agree to be civil with each other. And I think that's part of why this assassination yesterday hit people so hard, even people who don't like, they don't have like a personal connection, but it's just like, wait, like in the USA, people are not meant to get murdered for talking, for sharing opinions, for having debates. Like that's what we all do this, right?
Civil
like
discussion, yeah.
So, and at not just in the US, but at a US university campus, if you can't freely discuss and debate ideas on a US university campus, like what hope is there for the rest of the world? That's very dark. Like this is someone who's going around, a peaceful man who's going around doing things the right way, whether you like or dislike or disagree with the politics, that doesn't even matter. Yeah. You're engaging the right way. You're using your voice. You're not using bullets. And then someone else is just like, I disagree with this person so much or they've made me so angry. I have such little control over my emotions that I'm going to, take someone's life over.
Two tweets you did yesterday after this horrible event. One of them, a lot of people are angry and upset right now, and rightfully so. I feel it personally. I urge you to not become as callous and soulless as your enemies during the process. And then after that, taking some time off social media so I don't lose faith in humanity. Please be smart and hold on to your loved ones. There are some demons among us. God bless.
Yeah.
Explain those.
Yeah. So the second one you said was the one I wrote last night, actually, because, these things happen and the first thing was like I think like 2-3 minutes after Charlie was shot, I saw something about it online. Like it was very real time for me. So I was like, wait, is this even true?
Yeah.
Is this, And then it turned out he was. And then very quickly I saw the video. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had, but then, you're just seeing you're seeing the positive, you're seeing the reactions of, the worry and, pray for him and pray for his family. And, did he make it? Did he not? So on and so forth. But then you also see I started, seeing the dark side of, there are people celebrating it and there are people saying like, oh, he deserved this, or like laughing about it or making jokes or whatever. And like, this isn't the first time I've seen this, I think, with any sort of high profile incident of this sort, whether just like when there was the Trump assassination attempt, you had people saying things like, oh, like people lamenting the fact that, he didn't get killed and that type of thing. And it's just so dark. Like when someone is even thinking that way, like they're in a really, really dark place, because we all have our differences. We have our opinions, we have our thoughts, our beliefs. But honestly, this is not a virtue signal, but like never in my life have I like heard of like an innocent person, not even like getting sick, getting hurt, dying. And like, I feel glee. Yeah. I feel glee, and then I go publicly and I'm sharing my glee. And like, that's demonic, man.
Yeah.
Like that's so
evil.
That's true. That's truly genuinely evil. I don't know how people do that, and then they're still walking around believing that like you're the good guy when you're celebrating something like that. On
that note, I'll comment.
Sure.
I wonder, because we'll see videos and picture, and it's like you see someone celebrating this poor father getting shot, and immediately you're like, what is wrong with you? And then you see 5 more of them. Yeah. And then it's very easy to go, oh, those people
they
on the
all
left
think this way.
Yeah, that's why I logged off.
It's got to be, because I don't personally know any, and we're in California. We're surrounded by liberals. I mean, I don't know anybody who I'd go up to and say, hey, this, Charlie Kirk, he got killed. And they'd say, yay. They'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with them, but that's terrible. Yeah. So I wonder if it even represents a sizable minority. Probably not.
No, it doesn't.
People. But it makes you feel like.
Yeah, that's one of the things that can happen with social media. You can make 1% of the population look like 20%. Yeah. You can make 20% look like 70%. I always say, the best and worst thing about social media is that everyone has a voice. Everyone has a voice. Yeah. Honestly, like it's kind of how I feel about democracy. Like, it's like it's this double-edged sword where it's like, great, we can hear from everyone and everyone can share their ideas and opinions, but
all crap.
But then you just realize like there are types of people who in the real world, like I never encounter them. Yeah. Or if I did, I certainly wouldn't have a conversation or a relationship with them. But then online, they're free to just put out whatever, like the most heinous, the most callous, the most stupid, the most nasty things. So you kind of discover this subset of the population where you're like, geez, like I don't even come across people like this in my day-to-day life. And then it's all, so that's the thing, it's as we talk about it, it's kind of answering the question, right? Because we all see, you just said, like you can see a few of those. And you can start to think, gosh, like how many people think this way? How many people agree with this? Is this like a huge chunk of my fellow citizens that I'm walking around day to day and they harbor this darkness in their hearts? And so it does exist. Like we're seeing that it does exist. But fortunately, thank God, it's rare in the same way that, people who want to go out and kill other people or rob other people or rape other people, it's rare. It does exist. And it's always existed, and it exists in every country, and it exists throughout history. But it's a small minority, and yeah, I don't know, man. I feel
my fear with this, because we've dealt with for a little while now a lot of the extreme left and feeling like they have a lot of control and power for a while. Yeah. Pendulum swinging the other direction. And I think a lot of people on the right are like, yay, here we are. And my warning to them is like the extreme right is either as dangerous or more dangerous. Yep. And here's why. Reactions to events from the extreme right can be covered in patriotism and nationalism, which has a lot more potential danger. There's a lot of power behind that because you can pass very tyrannical policies and laws under the guise of like safety, national safety, and this is what's good for us. And so, my fear is the reactions to these things. These things are terrible when they happen, but it's the reactions that I'm old enough to remember September 11th, watching it happen.
Yep.
And thankfully I had some mentors at the time that were pointing things out to me, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We got to be very careful what they pass.
Yeah.
Following, and we know what they passed afterwards, the Patriot Act. And
Can you imagine
National Defense Authorization Act.
what that would have been like in the social media age?
Oh, great question. That would have been way worse.
It would have been worse.
It would have been way worse.
Yeah, it would have been
Meanwhile,
worse.
we saw a lot of unity back then.
Yeah.
Like everybody kind of rallied together and got a bit more patriot-like. But yeah,
But that also led to passing some laws
then,
that were just like this massive surveillance
got manipulated.
state. That is
and
not,
war and equally people killed, just not our people. I think that's the problem. I mean, still terrible reaction.
Yeah. Wait, do you have any fears of the reaction of this? First of all, I want to say rightful anger and definite sorrow over what happened. It's terrible. I don't know Charlie.
I'm sure you must have lots of mutual acquaintances, though.
But he was a father.
Yeah.
He was a human being. And to my knowledge, all he did was debate people.
Yeah, he did.
So horrible day. Crazy that it was done so publicly as well. But the reaction to this is where I'm like, what's going to happen?
And I think, look, this is where people just need to be smart, because when people are angry or fearful, generally they make bad decisions, especially in groups.
That is a truth.
Like one of my general rules when traveling, as someone who travels a lot internationally, one of my general rules is just stay away from large groups of angry people. Right? Like it doesn't matter what city or what country I'm in. If I'm seeing like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm seeing like some people, I just steer clear, because people stop thinking, the hive mind, the group mind. It's a very, very dangerous thing. So, I think I don't know. I don't know at this stage. I do certainly have some fears. I have some fears and some concerns about what the sort of response or reaction could be. It's hard to say because people need to. This is where, again, this is where like faith really comes in as well to me, because from a purely animalistic perspective, the norm is to seek some type of vengeance, right? Like that's where the animal brain goes to. Even vengeance upon who? Like it's not even known, right? Like pick the sort of target, and that's just dangerous thinking. Like one thing I've felt with the USA, especially over the last decade, is the temperature just needs to come down.
Yeah.
The temperature needs to come down. The social, the cultural, the political discourse, the level of division is one thing, and then when it becomes hatred is what drove this person to kill, right? I'm sure there's media manipulation that's in there, like whatever view he had in his brain of who this person was, to the point where like, I'm going to make an assassination attempt. Like that's driven by hatred. And this is where, the media can be so dangerous, right? When you're going around and the rhetoric is calling everyone you disagree with is a Nazi and a white supremacist and is the next coming of Hitler. And this, like, look, people have freedom of speech. They can say what they want, but every right comes with a responsibility. Okay. So like we all have the freedom to say whatever we want to say, like, and you can't go to prison for it in this country, but it doesn't mean you should. It doesn't mean you shouldn't consider the impact of your words.
What a great point, Zuby.
Yeah.
What a great point. I think about our show, and we reach tens of millions of people. If my ultimate goal was just to get as many people as possible to listen to me without the responsibility of, am I giving good advice? Ooh, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
And it seems like, well, definitely, it's got to be true. Media, it's just about how many people we get to look at us. There is no like, wait a minute, you guys, we're influencing people's perceptions. There's some responsibility. There's none of that.
Yeah. And there has to be. And that's true of like, quote unquote, both sides.
Yeah.
It's, and this is something, by the way, that this is so crazy that whoever this person is, like they killed Charlie Kirk because he was going about things the right way. It's hard to think of a better example in this country of someone who is quite literally just willing to, it's all about ideas. It's
He's
words.
engaging.
Yeah. It's words. It's all about, I'm going to talk to people on my side, on the other side, anyone who wants to talk, anyone who wants to debate and so on, non-violently. It can get feisty, it can get fiery, but it's going to stay just words. And that line just gets, that line was just crossed in the most egregious way, possible. Look, I've said many times before, I remember that I think I first publicly said it on the first time I was on Rogan, literally about almost 6 years ago to this day, 2019, September. I said to him, because we were talking about political polarization then. And I said, look, in any situation, whether it's between individuals, whether it's between groups, it's between nations, it's a marriage, it's friendship, it's diplomacy, there are only three ways to solve any conflict. Number one, words, discussion, debate, arguments, conversations. It's number one. Number two, separation. Separation, segregation, divorce, breakup. Three is violence. Those are the only options on the table. If there's a conflict, if there's a disagreement, those are the only options on the table. So I'm a huge fan of number one, because if people can no longer talk and discuss and debate, no matter how uncomfortable it might be, how much they may dislike each other, whatever, if you can stay in that realm of number one, then you can avoid number two and number three, right? Sometimes maybe number two, it's like, okay, there seems to be no pathway except, all right, we just need to go our separate ways and not engage and not really communicate with each other. And then the third one is just, it's literally physical violence.
One of the challenges with this is, Zuby, is that, like if I ask you this question, I think I know what the answer is. Who's easier to manipulate in whatever direction you want? A calm person or an angry, scared person?
Emotional
angry,
person.
scared person.
Very easy to manipulate.
So this is why I'm going to be the optimistic person in this situation right now and say that because this happened so closely to the George Floyd incident and we watched what media did with us then, and now we're seeing it on the total opposite side, I'm hopeful that some people, I know there's always going to be idiots, but more people will be aware and awake of what's happening. I feel like, if you're now seeing, this is the text message I had to send to my own friends and stuff like that. It's like, don't you see what they're doing to us right now? The same way that they did to the other side. And because if it was separated by a decade or two, it might be harder to connect them, but because it's so close, I feel like more people than ever will hopefully be aware of this, where before they would be kind of asleep. Yeah. That's the optimistic side I hope for.
Yeah, I do think you're right. I do think I haven't lost so much faith in humanity that I think like, oh my gosh, this is over. People are. I'm sure there are people who are like, it's Civil War time or whatever. I'm like, I don't think I have enough faith in the good people of this country that it's not going to descend to that sort of level. Might there be like some individuals who do something stupid? There might be. I hope there aren't. I hope that people aren't like, someone's not going to try to retaliate in the same sort of manner in the opposite direction. But I think moments like this are, it could be a good opportunity for unity in the way that you guys talked about 9/11. And I think that a rather polarized USA, at least for some time, really, really came together on that one. So now is, I was happy to see social media posts from Gavin Newsom and Barack Obama, and I think even Kamala Harris, sending condolences and, denouncing what happened. I was actually very happy to see that. These are not people who are, again, it's not about political agreement. That's the thing. People need to get away from this idea that just because people have different ideas or different opinions that like they are not just enemies, but enemies worthy of destruction.
Yeah.
That's so dangerous because then there's no limit to that.
If
There's
you're
no
just
limit
evil,
and anyone's a target.
Yeah, if you're evil, if I think you're evil, then why talk to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any
Immediately
sense.
justified in your own mind.
Yeah, it's wild because there's so many incentives to press the scared, angry button.
Of course.
So if you're a political party, you have, and you already saw this, right? Charlie Kirk gets shot. Horrible tragedy. It's so juicy for the right. And there's also, the left has tried to now pick up on we need to ban guns.
Yep.
It just becomes political fodder. And it's so enticing that I can use this. Media will use this. You can use this to sometimes sell products, depending on what the situation is.
Yep.
The incentive is there because scared, angry people are really easy to manipulate. I think the smartest thing that you did was take a break from social media.
100%.
The self-awareness to be like, okay, I'm going to take a break because I see now I'm no longer in this calm state of mind. And I know enough about myself to know that when I'm not calm, the decisions I make are not great. Yeah. That's why there's this great research on couples. Dr. John Gottman did this great research, duplicated it. Yep. Oftentimes you can't even duplicate this kind of research, but his was duplicated. And one of the things they found is, and they experimented with couples where they had them hooked up to heart rate monitors, blood pressure gauge, whatever. They had them live in this house. These were couples that were struggling with things. And when they saw that the couple's heart rates were going up, they were having a little bit of an argument or whatever, they would create an excuse to separate them. Oh, wait, hold on, you guys, hold on to that conversation. The equipment isn't reading stuff or whatever. Let's separate. And they would wait until the heart rates came down, everything came down. Then they let them come together, and the resolution rate went through the roof. Yep. Simply because they were calm. Yeah. So that's the thing that I'm like, and what social media does very well. Any moment I can look at it and get pissed off. Yeah. And just get reminded of what happened.
It's part of why it's so important to just be rude. It's very important to exist more in the real world than you do online. Like it's easy for me to tell when people exist more online than they do in reality because like there's this chasm, there's this gap in perception of just everything, because almost everything is worse online than it is in real life. And I see how it affects people. Just literally 2 days ago, I was talking to someone who had planned a whole trip to Europe, and then they canceled it based on stuff that they were seeing on social media. Because they kept seeing all the bad things happening here, and they're like, "Gosh, it's too dangerous to go there." And I was like, "Oh, like I kind of felt sad." I was like, "No, like go to Europe, man. Like you'll be fine, right?" I know people in the UK who are afraid to step foot in the USA. I know people in the USA who are afraid to step foot in the UK, and I understand why. Because you're just seeing the worst of everything that's happening in each place. And I'm like, no, like it's okay. When I tell people, hey, I'm going to California to record some podcasts, what are the comments? Be careful, wear a bulletproof vest. You know what I mean? I'm like, guys, like I'm going to be okay. Like it's really okay. Like I'm walking around, I look up down at my phone and I'm like, it's chaos, it's destruction, it's anger, it's fighting. And then I look up. I'm in the airport and everyone's like, are the blacks fighting the whites? Are the whites fighting the blacks? The Republicans at the throats of like, no, right? And I'm in LA and then San Francisco. You know what I mean? Like a bit of a hotbed, right? And you're just like, no, like most Americans are just getting on and people are being nice to each other, and like I'm literally with my own eyes just seeing everyone mingling and interacting and all of that, and it's just, and then you look down again and you're like, whoa, So yeah, just people need to be cautious of that. And I know touch grass is like used too often. It's become a kind of cliche, but there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of this truth to that. The real world is better. And even people who are online, most people act better in the real world. I've met some of the most controversial people in the world who exist on the internet. And I always get asked like, what's this person like? What's that person like? And I'm like, everyone's nice in real life. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you actually met him or her, like you'd probably have like a good conversation, and you wouldn't, they wouldn't want to fight you or anything like that. So yeah, it's a constant temptation, especially if you're in the world of creation and media and all of that. Like, we can all fall. We can all be tempted by some of the same incentives, right? It just like, I'll tell you another one that happens all the time is like people just wanting to be first. right? So something happens and no one knows the facts yet. No one knows what's true. But like, rather than people wanting to like, all right, let me just wait. Even if it's like, wait, like 30 minutes for more. It's like people immediately I want to be the first to speculate because then you get the likes and the algorithm's going to show your thing to everyone and so on. And you know, it happens all the time. I think everyone just needs to get better at controlling their emotions.
Is it too early to ask you this? Do you think about this with your kid and how you're going to raise them in this new tech world and iPhone world?
Yeah, I do. You do? I thought about it before I even became a father, especially as someone I've been on social media for 21 years. I made my Facebook account, I think October 2004.
So when it started, dude.
I was like, dude, I was one of the first people on Facebook. And I was on MySpace like around the same year. Cause you know, I was especially, and then with all my music stuff, like, you know, MySpace was like my big one to begin with. And then it became Facebook. So as someone who's actually heavily immersed in it and sees all the different sides of it, like, I think I'm even more cautious and discerning in that regard of what is appropriate and what's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've definitely thought about that a lot.
Yeah. Are you in the camp? I don't know if you've heard Jonathan Haidt talk about it. I'm like a huge fan of delay as long as you possibly
100%.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And again, like, I think I have some advantages, like becoming a dad now, because this experiment has been running for 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see
patterns.
You can see the patterns. You can see the data. You can see what works, what doesn't. You can even just anecdotally. I know a lot of children. I see my nieces, I see my nephews, my little cousins, and you know, their friends and so on. And you can see the ones who are heavy on the screen time and the tablet time and so on, and how they act and how they behave, versus those who, you know, that's a very, very small part of their life.
Yeah.
And so to me, the answer is clear. I'm sure it's easier said than done. I know my older siblings are going through some of that now with their teenagers.
I mean, I think it's really difficult. I mean, it's what's a blessing is, like you just said, is that you have all this experience that you can see. And so I think if you just don't open that can of worms, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah,
it's not hard.
So.
My son's 6.
Okay.
We introduced a little bit of the iPad like around 4 or 5. And I quickly just said, you know what?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't need any of this at all. And the first week of, you know, him being able to use it before to not using it was a little bit, Daddy, can I use my, no.
Yeah.
And then so a week of no's, but hasn't looked back.
Yeah.
Doesn't even really realize it's not there. If we watch cartoons, we watch it together as a family in the living room or whatever like that. And hasn't been a thing at all. I think when you let them for a long time, that's where this gets really, really difficult. So you're in a great place of.
Yeah. And I think, you know, like, people with like very young kids now, like, we're just more conscientious of it. And I think it's also, I think it's going to be easier by that stage, because I think there will also be like a large cohort of people with the same thinking. I can see how it's very difficult, how if like your son or daughter is the only one in their class who does not, like, the pressure must be immense to get them a smartphone or to allow them access to whatever. But actually, if like a large chunk of the people around you and fellow parents aren't giving them these things, then it's easier for everyone.
100%.
That's a very good speculation, because I have 4 kids, but big age gap. And with my older ones, it was like new. And so they had unfettered access because I thought it was like TV.
Sure.
Which it's not like TV, but it wasn't that obvious to me. And with my younger ones, it's very different. Yeah. Very, very different approach to how it is. So I agree with you. I think you're probably going to have a lot of kids.
I see it already personally. My wife and I have tried to curate my son's friends based off the parents and how their views around that. So his best friend, their parents are the mom works at Netflix.
Interesting.
And so they were already very cautious too. I was like, oh, this is so great. And so, you know, we've already had situations where we've gone on trips and stuff with them, and it's so cool to see, you know, another parents that are that aware of it, and it's just not a thing. You know, and
it's not a need. We know it's not a need because we all grew up without it.
Totally not.
Like all 99.9% of humanity grew up without it, so it's not like food or water or something.
Yeah.
As somebody whose business is centered around this kind of media, and your commentary oftentimes is related to what's happening in the world, and cultural commentary, political commentary. What keeps you centered and calm and facing in the right direction? How do you keep yourself from not getting polarized or not becoming one of those people?
Faith, family, fitness, hobbies, taking a break every week. I take every Sunday off social media. I've done that for many years. And
Just turn it off.
Yeah. Just don't use it. Don't post. Don't log in. Just a break every 7 days, even if it's just one day. Like it makes a significant difference.
Well, it feeds into the stat that Sal was just saying about even like conflict with couples.
Yeah.
Like that's what that is you're interrupting that.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not seeing every day, just that interruption of one day kind of probably goes, oh, okay.
Yeah. And then normally after 24 hours, like sometimes I'm hesitant to even go back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes I'll extend it one more day. So yeah, those things. And then, like I said, existing in the real world and prioritizing the real world. There's a blur between online and real, as we know, because, you know, like sometimes people say the internet's not real life, which is true, but it sort of is to some degree as well. But yeah, I base my decisions and my opinions and my thought more on reality and what I'm seeing. So if someone asked me, you know, what are your thoughts on the USA or Americans or California or Californians or San Francisco or LA? It's not. My answer is not going to be based on stuff I see online.
It's your own experience.
It's going to be based on my experiences and the thousands of people that I've met and spoken to and the actual interactions I've had, and that gives much greater priority than the things I see online. Because I'll tell you what, if I'd never been to the USA before, and I just judged the U.S. and the internet based off what I see on social media, I would be one of those people like, I'm not stepping foot in that country. Mm-hmm. I would. Because 90% of the insane stuff I see on the internet is from this country. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's the woke TikToks or it's the freaking trans kids or it's like school shootings or it's like insane politics. Some of the stuff we're talking about right now, like that's the stuff you see. That's what people internationally right now are seeing. They're seeing this woman getting stabbed on the train. They're seeing people being shot. That's why they're afraid to come to America, because they're like, I don't want to be killed. Yeah. And I'd say that reality is much closer to the truth than the negative filter that people are getting through their phones. And that's true. I've never been to a country that was like, I want to say like every single country I've been to and almost every city I've been to is like better in reality than it was online. You got to know what I mean, right?
No, I think so too.
So people might have all these thoughts about this part of the world or that part. Oh gosh, like whether it's Mexico or it's Saudi Arabia or it's Colombia or it's China or whatever, you know, and there's like all this fear. And then like most cases, if they actually like go and visit, they're like, oh, Mexico's great, right? You know,
I've always like argued that logically. Like, if it's so bad, why are millions of people staying there? Yeah, that's kind of how I've always made that
vacation there.
Yeah. I'm just like, if you really thought it was that bad, don't you think nobody would be there? I'm like, there's a lot of people that choose to live there, so it probably is not as bad.
I also just think like live not by fear. Yeah. Right. So obviously take reasonable precautions and don't throw safety to. Don't throw caution to the wind, right? Yeah. Be street smart, have your wits about you when you go to different places and interact with people. But you don't need to just like hide in one little corner of the globe your entire life because you're so afraid that if you step out there, something will happen. There's people who they won't get on a plane because, they're afraid the plane's going to crash. Mm-hmm. Strangely, they'll drive a car, which is way more dangerous. But they don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to do anything. It's fear-based. Yeah. So I just generally encourage people, like, I feel like young men especially, because like that's when you should have some freaking adventures, man. But yeah, like the world is an interesting place. And I recognize that, not everyone needs to travel to 100 different countries, or go to so many places or do so many things. But like, it's good to see different places with your own eyes and mingle with people and experience different cultures. And I don't know anyone who's worse off. I know a lot of people who are better off for it. I don't know anyone who's worse off for it.
I love that you're saying that. Yeah. And I think the key with this is realizing that you don't always know better, that you can be manipulated or you can be fear based. It's like when we give advice to people with diet and I say to them, hey, one of the best things you could do is not eat processed foods. Well, why is that? It's hard to stop eating them. So just know that, right? If you know that, then just stay away from them versus, believing the lie that, no, I'll know when to stop. Like, it's not going to, like, this just doesn't work that way. So it's like, why should you be off social media or why should you not get yourself into these news spins where, okay, you saw the thing, now leave it alone.
Yeah.
Why do I got to keep staying in there? Because you know that there's an illusion of control that you think you have over yourself and your decisions and your mental state. And the reality is you don't have as much control as you think. So just don't expose yourself for a little while. Give yourself a break. Watch what happens. It's actually one of the number one ways people reduce anxiety is to turn off.
Just turn it
Well,
off.
it's the processed food of communication, right?
Yeah.
It is.
It's most of it's junk. Doesn't mean there's not some good stuff in there, but
Your
most of
diet's
it.
not just what you eat.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's what
Crazy.
you listen to. It's what you see with your eyes.
Well, Zuby, always a pleasure having you on the show, man.
Yeah, dude.
Talking
Always,
with you.
man.
I
Glad you stopped by.
really appreciate you stopping by, my friend, and it was great being on your show earlier. So, and congratulations on being a dad.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
man. I really
it's
appreciate
awesome.
you guys, man.
You got
so
it.
happy to see you again.
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. Stop doing 3 sets of 12 to build muscle and do this instead. You guys want to guess?
Stop doing the 3 sets of 12 and do this instead. With that intro, my guess is you're going to tell people to change the rep range
5
up
by
to 5x5 or low rep range.
Do you
Is
guys
that
remember
the
when
angle you're going?
Yeah, so oftentimes we get stuck in like a set count and a rep count or a range that's